The clatter of heavy ceramic plates at Il Pavone was a rhythm, a predictable, steady beat against the murmur of the dinner rush. For Chloe Jensen, it was the perfect camouflage. For 3 years, she'd served $30 pasta to tourists and wise guys, her smile a perfect empty mask. But tonight, the rhythm broke. When 3 men in ill-fitting suits walked past the hostess stand, she didn't see customers. She saw angles, threats, and the heavy bulges under their jackets. They were here for Arthur Costello, the man in booth 4, the man she was there to destroy. But when the chaos erupted, they and Arthur learned that Chloe had a resume they never saw coming. The scent of garlic, old wine, and expensive perfume clung to the velvet curtains at Il Pavone. It was an institution on Mulberry Street, a place where deals were signed over veal saltimbocca and secrets were buried under plates of tiramisu. For Chloe Jensen, it was purgatory. She balanced 3 plates on her left arm, the muscles in her forearm burning with a familiar ache. "Here we are, folks, the rigatoni for you, and the branzino. Careful, the plate is very hot." "Thank you, dear," the woman said, not looking up from her phone. Chloe forced the smile. It was the same smile she used every night. It was a piece of armor, as vital as the apron tied tight around her waist. She moved back toward the kitchen, her eyes automatically scanning the room. It wasn't a waitress's scan for empty glasses. It was a systematic sweep. Table 7, tourists, arguing over the map. Table 11, first date, awkward silence. Booth 4, the target, Arthur "Artie" Costello, sat in his usual spot. Booth 4 was a deep, U-shaped booth in the back corner, offering a clear view of the entrance and the kitchen doors, with no windows nearby. He was a man carved from old-world granite, his face a road map of brutal decisions. He was flanked, as always, by his 2 bodyguards. Frank, a mountain of a man, sat in the booth with him. Leo, younger and twitchier, sat at the small 2-top table just adjacent, acting as a lookout. Artie was a creature of absolute, unbending routine. Tuesday nights, 8 p.m., booth 4, a bottle of the 98 Brunello and the Osso Buco. For 3 years, Chloe had studied this routine. She'd memorized the way he tasted his wine, a small, sharp sniff, then a thoughtful sip, the way he never sat with his back to a door, the way his eyes, though heavy-lidded, missed nothing. She had gotten this job, endured the low pay, the sore feet, and the leering comments from kitchen staff, for one reason: to get close to Arthur Costello, to learn his life, his habits, and his weaknesses. Because 15 years ago, Arthur Costello had presided over the hostile takeover of the city's shipping unions, a takeover that had left her father, Robert Jensen, a regrettable accident at the bottom of a dry dock. Chloe's life had split in 2 that day, the life before, of a teenager planning for college, and the life after, foster care, anger, and finally, the recruiter who saw that cold, focused rage and offered her a path. 6 years in Army intelligence, specializing in close-quarters surveillance and tactical medicine. She'd served 2 tours in environments that made Mulberry Street look like a playground. When she'd been honorably discharged, she didn't know what to do. The rage was still there, a cold pilot light in her stomach. So she'd built a new identity, buried her DD-214 and her commendations deep in a safe deposit box, and applied to be a waitress at the one place her father's killer felt safe. Her plan was long. It was patient. She would wait, watch, and find the one thread that, when pulled, would unravel his entire world. Poison was too kind. A bullet was too fast. She wanted to destroy him, as he had destroyed her family. The front bell chimed. It was 8:45 p.m. Too late for the dinner rush, too early for the late-night drinkers. 3 men entered. Chloe retrieving a water pitcher from the service station. froze. Her entire body went cold. It was a feeling she hadn't had since Kandahar. It was the prickle of wrongness. They weren't tourists. They weren't businessmen. They weren't locals. The first man, the leader, was tall with pale, pitted skin. He wore a grey suit that was too tight in the shoulders. He scanned the room, his eyes sharp and dead. Let's call him Yuri. The two behind him were shorter, built like refrigerators. Mikhail and Gregor. They didn't wait for the hostess. They began moving into the dining room. Chloe's training took over. Her brain, usually foggy with exhaustion, snapped into high-definition clarity. Threat assessment: 3 hostiles, armed. Right-hand dominant, all 3. Jackets are heavy. Body armor, likely. Formation: tactical triangle. Yuri is point. Mikhail and Gregor are flankers. Objective: high-value target. That means... Her eyes darted to booth 4. Leo, the lookout, had noticed them. He was starting to stand up, his hand moving to the small of his back. Frank, in the booth with Artie, was reacting to Leo's movement, turning his head. Artie was still looking at his wine. The 3 men were 20 feet from Artie. Yuri saw Leo move. That was the signal. Chloe didn't think. She acted. She wasn't Chloe the waitress. She was Sergeant Jensen. "Get down!" she roared, her voice not a scream, but a deep, guttural command that cut through the restaurant's murmur like a cannon shot. She didn't drop and hide. She moved. In one fluid motion, she hurled the heavy glass water pitcher at the lead attacker, Yuri. It wasn't meant to stop him, but to break his focus. Yuri flinched as the pitcher shattered against his shoulder, cold water and glass spraying him. That flinch cost him 1/10 of a second. It was all Leo needed. "Gun!" Leo shouted, drawing his pistol. But Gregor, the left flanker, was faster. A suppressed thwip-thwip sound, barely audible, and Leo was slammed back against the wall. 2 red blossoms appearing on his white shirt. He slid to the floor, dead. 1 bodyguard down. Frank, inside the booth, was a bigger problem for them. He'd shoved Artie down and was drawing his own, much larger, handgun from a shoulder holster. He was a professional, but he was pinned. Mikhail, the right flanker, raised his weapon toward the booth. Chloe was already moving. She was 4 feet away, near a service stand. She grabbed a full, heavy bottle of Chianti Riserva. Mikhail wasn't looking at her. He was focused on the booth. Chloe swung the bottle in a vicious, horizontal arc, not at his head, but at his gun hand. The impact was a sickening crack of glass and bone. The gun clattered to the floor. Mikhail screamed, his hand a mangled mess. Before he could even register the pain, Chloe drove the jagged, broken neck of the bottle forward and down, jamming it deep into the soft spot, just below his ribs. A non-lethal, but utterly incapacitating blow. He gurgled, blood foaming at his lips, and collapsed. 1 attacker disabled. The restaurant was pure chaos. People were screaming, scrambling under tables. Yuri, the leader, recovered from the pitcher throw. He saw Mikhail go down. He turned his weapon on Chloe. She had no cover. She was exposed. Thwip! A bullet hissed past her ear, so close she felt the heat of its passage. Thwip! Thwip! Frank, from the booth, returned fire. His unsuppressed .45 boomed like thunder in the enclosed space. The shots were deafening. Yuri was forced to take cover behind a thick marble pillar. Gregor, the other attacker, was also firing at the booth, keeping Frank pinned. The firefight was now a triangle. Frank and Artie in the booth, Yuri at the pillar, Gregor near the bar. Chloe was in the middle, in the kill zone. She scrambled behind the heavy oak bar. She needed a weapon. She needed an advantage. She heard Frank grunt, a wet, choking sound. He'd been hit. "Artie," he coughed. "Get out. Back way." The firing from the booth stopped. Both bodyguards down. It was just Artie, pinned in the booth, and the two remaining attackers. Yuri and Gregor advanced, their movements tactical, coordinated. They were moving to flank the booth from both sides. It was over. Artie Costello was a dead man. Chloe peered over the bar. Gregor was closest to her. He was moving past, his back to her, focused on the booth. She scanned the bar. A corkscrew, a paring knife, a blender. No. Her eyes landed on the siphon for the seltzer water. A heavy, metal canister. She grabbed it. She rose from behind the bar like a ghost. Gregor heard the movement and started to turn. Chloe swung the metal canister with all her strength, connecting with the side of his head just above the ear. The sound was a dull thud. Gregor dropped like a sack of rocks, unconscious before he hit the floor. Two attackers disabled. Now it was just Yuri. He was at the pillar, 15 feet from the booth. He heard Gregor fall. He spun, saw Chloe, and raised his pistol. Chloe had no weapon, no cover. Artie Costello, who she thought was cowering, suddenly lunged from the booth. He wasn't armed, but he grabbed the fallen bodyguard, Frank, and pulled the man's heavy body on top of his own as a human shield. Thwip, thwip, thwip! Yuri's bullet sank into the dead bodyguard. Artie, from beneath the body, had retrieved Frank's .45. He fired once. The heavy-caliber bullet hit Yuri square in the chest. Even with body armor, the kinetic force was like being hit by a sledgehammer. Yuri stumbled back, gasping. Artie fired again. And again. Yuri fell, his gun skittering across the checkered tile. Silence. A profound, ringing silence, broken only by the whimpers of a busboy and the distant, growing wail of sirens. The entire engagement had taken less than 45 seconds. Chloe stood, breathing hard, her knuckles white on the seltzer canister. Her server's apron was spattered with blood. Arthur Costello pushed the body of his loyal bodyguard off him. He was breathing heavily, a millionaire in a bespoke suit, covered in his employee's blood. He looked at the carnage. 3 attackers down, 2 bodyguards dead. Then he looked at Chloe. His eyes, those sharp, intelligent eyes, weren't filled with gratitude. They were filled with sheer, cold shock and 100 questions. "Who?" he rasped. "In the hell are you?" Before she could answer, Artie clutched his side. He looked down. A dark stain was spreading across his expensive shirt, just under his ribs. Yuri's first shots, when Frank was returning fire, must have gotten through. Artie Costello looked at the blood on his hand, then at Chloe, his face pale. "He got me," he whispered, and collapsed to the floor. The adrenaline that had turned Chloe into a tactical machine evaporated, replaced by a different, colder focus. The sirens were closer now, maybe 3 minutes out. The restaurant was a wreck of overturned tables, shattered glass, and bleeding men. Chloe's eyes went to Artie. He was on his side, his breathing shallow and ragged. The wound was in a bad place. Lower right quadrant of his chest, sucking chest wound, lung involved. He's drowning in his own blood. The part of her that was Sergeant Jensen, the combat medic, took over. The part of her that wanted this man dead, the part that had plotted for 3 years, went silent. You don't let a man die on your watch, not even him. It was a reflex, burned into her deeper than hatred. "Call 911, she barked at the busboy, who was still hiding by the kitchen doors. "Tell them shots fired, multiple victims, multiple GSWs. Need a bus, now." She ran to Artie, skidding on the bloody tiles. "Artie, stay with me. Look at me." She put 2 fingers on his neck. His pulse was thready, fast, tachycardic, going into shock. She ripped his shirt open. The wound was small, a neat, dark hole, and it was making a faint, awful hissing sound every time he tried to inhale. "Damn it!" She looked around. The busboy was on the phone, hysterical. "You!" she shouted at the hostess, who was pale and shaking behind her podium. "Kitchen. Now. Get me plastic wrap, the big roll, and duct tape, and all the clean bar towels you can find. Go! Run!" The hostess, galvanized by the sheer command in Chloe's voice, sprinted to the kitchen. Chloe turned back to Artie. His eyes were fluttering. "No, you don't. Stay with me, Costello." She put her hand flat over the wound, applying pressure. "You're not dying on me, you bastard." He focused on her. His eyes were cloudy with pain, but the intelligence was still there. He was analyzing her. "You're not a waitress," he gurgled, a fleck of blood on his lips. "Shut up, don't talk. Save your breath." The hostess ran back, her arms full. "Here, is this?" "Perfect." Chloe snatched the roll of plastic wrap. She ripped off a large square. She pressed it flat over the wound as Artie exhaled, creating a makeshift occlusive dressing. The hissing stopped. "Tape!" She grabbed the duct tape and taped the plastic square down on 3 sides, leaving the bottom edge open. A flutter valve. It would let air out, but not in. It would, maybe, stop his lung from collapsing completely. "Towels. Give them to me." She checked him for other wounds, one in the fleshy part of his left arm. That was secondary. The chest wound was the killer. She packed the arm wound tightly with towels and applied pressure. She checked the attackers. Mikhail, bottle wound, bleeding, unconscious, but breathing. Gregor, seltzer bottle, unconscious, likely severe concussion, but breathing. Yuri, shot by Artie, dead, eyes open, staring at the ornate ceiling. She checked Artie's bodyguards. Leo, shot first, dead. Frank, shot in the booth. GSRW to the throat. He was gone, too. The sirens were deafening now, stopping right outside. The front doors burst open, but it wasn't the police. 4 men in dark suits, led by a younger, paler version of Artie, stormed in. This was Artie's real security, the backup team that always sat in a black SUV down the street. This was his son, Vincent Costello. Vincent saw the carnage. He saw his 2 men dead. He saw the 3 attackers. And he saw a waitress, covered in blood, kneeling over his father with a roll of duct tape in her hand. He raised his pistol, aiming it straight at Chloe's head. "Get away from him!" he screamed. "Vincent!" Artie gasped, his voice a wet rattle. Vincent's eyes snapped to his father. "She," Artie coughed, blood spraying. "She saved me. The waitress saved me." Vincent froze, his gun still aimed at Chloe, his face a mask of confusion and rage. "She, what?" "I'm a medic," Chloe said, her voice flat, professional. "He has a tension pneumothorax. I've sealed the wound, but he needs a chest tube and a surgeon, or he'll be dead in 10 minutes. Vincent stared at her. He saw the makeshift seal, the pressure bandage. He saw her eyes, which were not the eyes of a terrified civilian. They were the eyes of a professional, as cold and steady as his own. He slowly lowered his gun. The police and EMTs were swarming the entrance now, guns drawn. "NYPD, drop your weapons, hands in the air." Vincent ignored them. He barked at his own men. Get him out of here, now." "Sir, the police! To hell with the police! He goes to our doctor. Get the car!" 2 of Vincent's men scooped up Artie Costello, who groaned in agony. "Keep that seal on him," Chloe ordered. "Keep him on his injured side if you can. It'll help his good lung." Vincent's men looked at him. He nodded. "Do what she says." As they rushed Artie out the back door toward their armored car, Vincent turned to Chloe. The regular EMTs were trying to get in, and the police were trying to secure the scene. It was chaos. "The cops are going to want to talk to you," Vincent said, his voice low and fast. "I know. I saw what happened," Chloe said. "No." Vincent grabbed her arm, his grip like a steel vice. "You're not talking to them. You're coming with me." "I'm not going anywhere. You just saved the life of Arthur Costello. You're now the single most valuable witness in a mob war. The men who sent these three will come for you, and we want to know who you are. You don't have a choice." He didn't wait for an answer. He dragged her through the pandemonium of the kitchen, past the terrified staff, and shoved her out the back door into a dark alley, just as the first NYPD officers burst through the kitchen's swing doors. He threw her into the back of a black Cadillac Escalade. "Drive, Anthony!" he shouted. The doors locked, the tires screeched, and Il Pavone disappeared behind them. Chloe Jensen, Waitress, had just been officially kidnapped by the Costello crime family. The Escalade moved with the silent, predatory grace of a shark. Chloe was pressed against the door, her hands visible, her breathing controlled. Vincent Costello sat opposite her, not beside her. He was studying her, his dark eyes cataloguing every detail, the blood on her apron, the steady hands, the way she wasn't crying or hysterical. "You're not a waitress," he said. It wasn't a question. "I am," Chloe replied, her voice rough. "You get a lot of weirdos on Mulberry. You learn to handle things." Vincent let out a short, cold laugh. "Handle things? You just executed a textbook non-lethal takedown on 2 trained men and field-dressed a sucking chest wound. That's not handling things, that's tradecraft." Chloe's mind was racing. Her plan, her entire life for the past 3 years. It was gone. It had detonated in 45 seconds. The long, slow burn of revenge she had planned, bankrupting him, exposing him, ruining his name, was gone. She had saved him. The irony was so bitter it tasted like acid. She needed a new cover, a partial truth. "I was Army," she said, looking out the window as the city lights blurred into the highway. "Medic, 82nd Airborne, did a tour." "A tour where?" "Afghanistan. Kandahar." Vincent nodded slowly. That made a terrible kind of sense. "And you go from that to serving Ossobuco." "Honorable discharge," Chloe said. "The real world isn't easy. Il Pavone paid cash under the table. I needed a job. I kept my head down. Until tonight. Tonight, they brought the war to my job. I just reacted." The SUV ate up the miles, leaving the city far behind. They drove for nearly an hour, turning off the main highway onto a series of dark, winding country roads. Finally, they slowed, approaching a massive 10-foot stone wall topped with razor wire. A heavy iron gate slid open, revealing a compound that looked more like a military base than a home. Floodlights illuminated a sprawling, dark stone mansion, several smaller guest houses, and what looked like a concrete bunker built into the side of a hill. Guards with body armor and short-barreled rifles waved them through. This was the real Costello power, not the restaurant, not the city penthouse. This fortress, the Escalade didn't go to the front door. It drove around back to the concrete bunker, pulling into a sterile underground garage that smelled of antiseptic. As the doors opened, a man in blue scrubs was waiting. He was older, with the exhausted, cynical face. This was Dr. Paulson, the Costello family's private surgeon. "This way! Get him in here!" he snapped, as Vincent's men rushed Artie in on a gurney. "GSW to the right chest. Looks like a 9mm count," Vincent said, all business. "He's tachycardic. Lost a lot of blood." Dr. Paulson looked at the bloody plastic wrap taped to Artie's chest. "What is this?" He leaned in, his eyes widening slightly. "A 3-sided dressing. Who did this?" "I did," Chloe said, stepping out of the car. Paulson looked her up and down, the apron, the blood, the seltzer canister still, absurdly, in her hand. "You? Well, congratulations, Waitress. You just saved his life. Another 10 minutes, and his lung would have collapsed and shifted his heart." he'd have been dead. Get him to Ore 1. As the team rushed Artie through a set of steel doors, Vincent blocked Chloe's path. His men, Rousseau and Bobby, moved to flank her. She was a prisoner. "Now," Vincent said, his voice low, "we talk. Your name is Chloe Jensen. You've worked at Il Pavone for 3 years, 2 months and 4 days. You've been serving my father every Tuesday night. And in all that time, you never said a word. Now you're telling me you're an ex-war hero who just happened to be there." "It's the truth," Chloe said. "I don't believe in truth. I believe in interests," Vincent said. He led her into a small, windowless office. It was bare, save for a steel table and 3 chairs. "Who sent you? Who were you working for?" "Nobody. I'm telling you Don't lie to me." Vincent slammed his hand on the table. The sound cracked in the small room. "Those men who came in tonight, they weren't locals. They were pros. They came for my father. And somehow, you, a waitress, were more professional than them. And you saved him. I can't square that circle, Chloe. So, I ask again, who are you?" Before Chloe could answer, the door opened. An older, impeccably dressed man entered. He was thin, with a shock of white hair and eyes as sharp and grey as a scalpel. This was Salvatore Sal Bianchi, Artie's consigliere, the man who had been at Artie's side for 40 years. He was the family's memory. "Vincent," Sal said, his voice a gravelly whisper, "the doctor is working. It is serious. And this is the girl." Sal looked at Chloe. He walked around her, studying her face. He seemed to be looking not at her, but into her, searching for something. "Jensen," he murmured, as if tasting the name. "Chloe Jensen. Why do I know that name?" Chloe's blood ran cold. This was the man her father used to talk about. Sal Bianchi, the reasonable one, he'd called him, back when the union talks were just beginning, before they turned sour. "She says she's ex-army, Sal," Vincent said impatiently. "A medic." "No." Sal's eyes widened, a flicker of genuine shock. He leaned closer. "My God, you have his eyes. I see it now. You're Robert's girl. You're Robert Jensen's daughter." The room went absolutely silent. Vincent's head snapped toward Chloe, his face a mask of dawning, terrible realization. "Jensen," Vincent whispered. The shipping union. That Jensen." Chloe's carefully constructed cover, her partial truth, was gone. She was exposed, down to the bone. The hatred she'd kept locked down for 15 years flooded her face. "Yes," she spat, her voice dripping with a venom that shocked them both. "I'm his daughter. And you," she said, jabbing a finger at Vincent. "Your father murdered him." Vincent reacted instantly. He lunged across the table and grabbed Chloe by the throat, slamming her back against the concrete wall. His face was inches from hers, contorted in a mask of pure rage. "You!" he hissed, his grip tightening. "You've been playing us. 3 years. 3 years you've been serving him, smiling at him. You were there to kill him. Tonight! Was that your plan? Did you set him up?" Chloe choked, gagging for air. But she didn't fight. She just glared at him, her eyes burning with a cold fire. "If I wanted him dead," she gasped. "He'd be dead. I wouldn't have saved him." "Vincent!" Sal's voice was sharp. "Let her go. Now. She is of no use to us dead. And she's right. If she was part of the hit, she would have let him bleed out on the floor." Vincent's eyes darted between Sal and Chloe. He was vibrating with fury, but Sal's logic was undeniable. He released his grip, shoving her back. Chloe slumped against the wall, rubbing her throat, taking in deep, ragged breaths. "So what was it?" Vincent snarled, pacing the small room. "A long con. You get close to him and then what? Poison? A knife in the parking lot? I was there to watch him, Chloe said, her voice hoarse. I was there to learn everything about him. His routines, his businesses, his partners. I was going to find a way to take everything from him. His money, his power, his name. I was going to leave him with nothing, just like he left my mother, just like he left me. You were going to destroy my father, Vincent said, the statement flat, chilling. I was going to get justice, she retorted. Sal sat down at the table, steepling his fingers. He looked old and very, very tired. Justice? Robert Jensen. It was a long time ago. Your father was a good man, Chloe, a strong man, but stubborn. He was honest, Chloe said. In our world, that is a liability, Sal said quietly. Arthur, he was consolidating the port. The unions were the key. He made your father offers. Money, power, a piece of the pie. Robert wouldn't listen. He was going to go to the papers, to the feds. So Artie had him murdered, Chloe said, the words tasting like ash. An accident at the docks, crushed by a container. You think I didn't know? It was a bad business, Sal admitted, looking at the floor. It was messy. And now, Vincent cut in, his voice pure ice. After 15 years of plotting your revenge, you saved his life. Why? That's the part I don't understand. Chloe's own confusion and self-loathing rose up in her. Why had she? She had dreamed of his death. But when she saw that wound, the hissing, the panic in his eyes, I'm a medic, she said, more to herself than to them. He was a dying man. I'm trained to save lives. It's not a choice. It's not logical. It's a reflex. I saw the wound and I acted. Believe me, no one is more pissed off about it than I am. The brutal honesty of that statement threw Vincent off. He stared at her, seeing the genuine conflict, the raw self-hatred. This was a complexity he hadn't anticipated. So you're a vengeful daughter and a battlefield angel all wrapped in one, he mocked. This changes nothing, Chloe said. As soon as he's stable, I'm gone, and my plan continues. No, Vincent said, a cold smile touching his lips. You're not. You see, Chloe, your little drama is over. A bigger one just started. The men at the restaurant, Sal said, his voice grave. They were not from here, were they? Chloe's tactical mind re-engaged, pushing the personal rage aside. No, Eastern European. Russian, maybe. They moved like a military fire team, coordinated, suppressed weapons, body armor. They weren't mobsters. They were soldiers. Exactly, Vincent said. For the last 6 months, a new player has been trying to move in on the ports. On my ports, your father's old territory. We've had friction. But this was an assassination attempt. This was a declaration of war. The door opened. Dr. Paulson stood there, his mask down. He looked grim. How is he? Vincent demanded. He's alive, Paulson said. Thanks to her. The bullet nicked the pulmonary artery but missed the heart. I've repaired it. But the blood loss, the trauma, he's in a medically induced coma. He's stable, but I don't know when he'll wake up. It could be days. It could be weeks. Vincent and Sal exchanged a look. The king was off the board. Vincent turned back to Chloe. He was no longer the raging son. He was the de facto boss of the Costello family, and he was at war. You're not going anywhere, Chloe, Vincent said, his voice quiet. You're the only person on this planet who is an expert in 2 things I suddenly, desperately need. My father's new enemies, and my father's organization. I'm not your soldier, Chloe said, backing away. This isn't my fight. You made it your fight when you saved his life, Vincent countered, moving toward her. You kept him on the board. You preserved the thing they came to destroy. That makes you their enemy. Do you think they don't know who you are? They saw you. They saw you take out 2 of their men. They will find Chloe Jensen, the waitress. They will find you, and they will kill you. Your only safe place in the world is right here, with me. Chloe knew he was right. Her old anonymous life was gone. She was a loose end, a target. And what? She scoffed. You're just going to protect me? After I told you I want to destroy your family? I don't care about your feelings, Vincent said. I care about utility. And you are suddenly very useful. Those men, you said they were like soldiers. My men, they're not. They're good at breaking legs and collecting debts. They're not ready for this. You are. You're asking me to help you, Chloe said, the irony staggering. To help you hold on to the empire my father died trying to stop. I'm asking you to help yourself, Vincent said. They're coming for us both. You fight with me. You get to live. And you get your revenge. Chloe froze. What? These men. They want the ports. They want what my father controls. They are the new monsters. You help me stop them. You help me protect this family. And when it's over, when my father wakes up, you get what you came for. I want him in jail. No, Sal said, intervening. That we cannot do. But what if you were to get justice? What if you were to take from him what he took from you? Vincent's eyes lit up, seeing the new angle. The ports, your father's old unions. You help me win this war. You help me stabilize this family. And I will give you the docks. You can run them. You can make them as clean and honest as your sainted father wanted. It will be yours. The one thing he died for. This was the ultimate deal with the devil. They were offering her the one thing she'd lost, the very thing that had cost her father his life. To get it, she had to protect the man who gave the order. I can't, she whispered. You can, Sal said, his voice gentle. You saved his life, child. Your ethics, your soul, it's already compromised. You can't be a ghost anymore. You have to choose a side. So choose the one that gives you a future. Chloe looked at the 2 men, the cold, pragmatic heir and the wise, manipulative counselor. She was trapped, but she also saw a path, a twisted, dark path. But a path. I don't want the docks, she said, her voice finding its strength. I want them. The men who did this. I want the man who sent them. You find him. I'll help you stop him. And in exchange, I want my real price. Name it, Vincent said. When Artie wakes up, I want him to tell me the truth. No lawyers, no business. I want him to look me in the eye and tell me why. I want a confession. And then I want the name of the man who did it. The one who actually swung the hook. Vincent and Sal looked at each other. This was possible. And one other thing, Chloe said. I'm not your prisoner. I'm your partner. I get a gun, I get access, and I get a room. Not a cell, or I'll take my chances with the Russians. Vincent stared at her for a long, hard moment. He was calculating the odds. Finally, he nodded. All right, partner. He opened a desk drawer, took out a compact 9mm Glock, and slid it across the table. Welcome to the family, for now. He turned to one of his men. Russo, take Miss Jensen to the East Wing. Get her cleaned up. She's working with Sal. Find out who those men were. Find out where they sleep. And then find out where their boss is. Russo nodded, his eyes wide with a new, grudging respect for the waitress. Chloe picked up the gun. The weight was familiar, comforting. She had just gone from waitress to prisoner to strategic advisor. She was inside the castle, allied with her mortal enemy. Her father's ghost screamed in protest, but Sergeant Jensen's instincts told her she had just made the only move on the board. The next week was a blur. Chloe's world shrank to the Costello compound. She lived in a large, comfortable guest room, but the doors were always guarded. She was a guest, but she was also their most valuable asset and their most dangerous prisoner. Artie Costello remained in his coma, a ghost in the machine, his life hanging by the wires in the medical wing. Vincent was now, in effect, the boss, and he was a boss under siege. The attack at Il Pavone was just the opening salvo. 2 days later, a shipping container full of Costello-controlled electronics vanished from the port. The next day, one of Artie's top earners, a lone shark named Petey Palms, was found executed in his car, a method so brutal it was clearly a message. Vincent was losing control. His capos were spooked. They were demanding action. "We hit 'em back!" one of them, a hothead named Gino, shouted during a meeting in the war room. "We find every Russian bastard in this city and we put 'em in the ground." "And where do we look, Gino?" Vincent shot back, his nerves frayed. "You have any idea who they are? What they're called? Where they are? We're fighting shadows." "They're not shadows." Chloe's voice cut through the cigar smoke. All eyes turned to her. She stood at the back of the room, dressed in new, practical clothes, her arm in a sling from a training accident. She'd been keeping sharp in the compound's gym. She walked to the large map of the city. "They're soldiers. And soldiers have a supply line. They have a base. You're trying to fight a war. I'm telling you to win an intelligence op." For 3 days, she and Sal had been living in the comms room. Sal, with his encyclopedic knowledge of the city's underbelly, and Chloe, with her military intel training. They were a strange but effective team. "The attackers from the restaurant," Chloe said. "Their suits were cheap, but their weapons, their body armor, that was high grade, surplus military, hard to get. We've been tracking illegal arms sales, and we found a match." She pointed to a warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn. "This warehouse, it's owned by a shell corporation, which is fronted by a vodka import company. Vostrov Imports," Sal added, "run by a man named Anton Volkov." "Volkov," Vincent said, the name tasting like poison. "He's the one who's been pushing." "He's not just pushing. He's invading," Chloe said. "He's Bratva, not just mob. He's Vori V. Zakon, the real deal. He's here to erase you, and he's using that warehouse as his command center and armory. You hit that, you cut the head off the snake." Gino was practically vibrating. "So what are we waiting for? Let's send a team, 50 guys. We'll level the place." "Absolutely not," Chloe said, her voice so cold it silenced him. "That's what he wants you to do. That building is a fortress. It'll be a slaughterhouse. You'll lose your 50 men, and Volkov will be gone. You don't hit it with a sledgehammer. You hit it with a scalpel." "What are you proposing?" Vincent asked, trusting her. "A 3-man infiltration team," Chloe said. "Me, Russo, and Bobby." "You?" Vincent said. "You're not." "I'm the only one who's ever seen these guys in action," Chloe said. "I'm the only one who knows their tactics. We don't go in to fight. We go in to plant. We put a tracker on Volkov's personal vehicle. We put listening devices in his office. We get out. We find out where he really lives, where he sleeps. Then we end it. Quietly." It was a standoff. The old-world mobsters, like Gino, looked at her with contempt. But Vincent, the new-world pragmatist, saw the logic. "Do it," Vincent said. "My way has been failing. We try yours." That night, under a moonless sky, a black van slid to a stop a block from the Vostrov Imports warehouse. The street was silent. "Comms check," Chloe whispered into her throat mic. "Check," Russo replied. Check, Bobby added, his voice tight. They were Vincent's best, his most trusted, and they were terrified. This was not their world. Chloe moved first. She scaled a chain-link fence like a shadow, not making a sound. She disabled the alarm system at the junction box with a practiced, steady hand. She found the one blind spot in the camera coverage, a detail she'd spent 12 hours finding on satellite maps. She picked the lock on a side maintenance door. We're in, she whispered. 2-minute intervals. Bobby, you're on overwatch. Russo, you're with me. We plant the bugs, then the tracker. We are ghosts. The warehouse was dark, but not empty. Men patrolled, speaking low, guttural Russian. Chloe and Russo moved along the catwalks above, silent as spiders. They found Volkov's office. Chloe signaled. 2 guards, door and window. Russo looked at her, then at his gun. Chloe shook her head. She dropped a small metal ball bearing onto the metal gantry 20 yards away. Clink, clink, clatter. Both guards tensed. Что это? One whispered. They moved as one to investigate the sound. In that instant, Chloe and Russo slipped into the office, planted 3 bugs under the desk and behind a painting, and were out again in under 30 seconds. The guards returned, finding nothing. Phase 1 complete, Chloe whispered. To the garage. Volkov's car. They moved to the internal garage. A black, armored Mercedes G-Wagon was parked there. He's here, Russo breathed. Good, Chloe said. She was crawling under the chassis, her arm aching, when she heard the shout. Bobby, on overwatch, had been spotted. An alarm blared. Floodlights snapped on. Coyote! Trevoga! Bobby, get out! Get to the van! Chloe yelled. A firefight erupted. Bobby was returning fire, but he was pinned down. Russo, lay down suppression fire on that door. Cover him! Russo opened up with his submachine gun, the noise deafening. The tracker! Russo yelled at Chloe. Damn it! The car was 30 feet away. Volkov himself burst from a side office, flanked by 4 men heading for the car. He's running! Russo shouted. Chloe made a choice. She broke cover. Cover me! She screamed. She sprinted through the open kill zone, bullets snapping at her heels. Volkov was climbing into the driver's seat. She leaped, sliding across the concrete floor, and slammed the magnetic tracker onto the rear axle just as the engine roared to life. A searing pain exploded in her left shoulder. She was hit. The Mercedes peeled out, smashing through the garage door. Chloe, you're hit! Russo grabbed her, pulling her behind a stack of crates. It's fine. Just a graze. It wasn't. Blood was pouring down her arm. Bobby, exit, now. We're right behind you. Russo practically carried her, laying down fire with his other hand. They burst out the side door, piled into the van, and screeched away just as the warehouse lights went dark. Volkov's men were already erasing their presence. In the back of the van, Chloe was pale, gritting her teeth against the pain. Did you get it? Bobby asked, his face white. Chloe's hand went to her earpiece, where a small receiver was blinking, a steady beep, beep, beep. She smiled, blood on her teeth. Got him. When they got back to the compound, Dr. Paulson was waiting. You're trying to kill yourself, aren't you? He growled, cutting away her bloody shirt. The bullet had gone clean through the fleshy part of her shoulder. It was the same one she'd been grazed in before. It's just a scratch, Chloe gritted out. It's 2 inches from your brachial artery, Paulson snapped. You're lucky. Now hold still. Vincent and Sal burst into the medical wing. What happened? Bobby got seen. Plan went to hell, Russo said, his hands still shaking. But she did it. I've never seen anything like it. She ran right at him. She got the tracker on him. Vincent looked at the blinking light on the laptop Sal was carrying. A single red dot moving steadily through Manhattan. He's not going to the airport, Vincent said. No, Chloe said, as Paulson stitched her wound. He's going to ground. He's going to his bolt hole. He'll disappear for 6 months, then come back and start this all over again. We have to end it. Tonight. The red dot stopped. A high-rise in Midtown, a private financial building. He's liquidating, Sal said, pulling his assets. He is running. No, Chloe insisted, sitting up, ignoring the doctor's protests. He's cleaning house. That's his real HQ, not the warehouse, that bank. He's paying off his people, destroying his records, and he's vulnerable. For the first time, he's not in his fortress. He's in an office building. We go now. Vincent looked at her, at the blood, the sweat, the absolute cold certainty in her eyes. He nodded. Russo, Bobby, get the car. You two and me, and her. Gino and his team, Russo started. No, Vincent said. No army. This is a scalpel. Her way. An hour later, 4 people in dark, tailored suits walked into the lobby of the Kirov Financial Building. The night watchman looked up, then went pale as Russo and Bobby flanked him, guns drawn. Elevator. Now. What floor? Vincent asked. Penthouse. It's Mr. Volkov's private office. Sal, Vincent said into his phone, cut the power to the elevators in 60 seconds. They piled in. The elevator hummed, then dinged on the penthouse floor. The doors opened onto a silent, opulent office. Anton Volkov was there, stuffing gold bars into a briefcase. 3 of his men were with him. They all froze. Anton, Vincent said, a deathly calm in his voice. You've been a terrible guest. Volkov smiled, a gold-toothed feral grin. Costello, you look just like your father. Weak. His men reached for their guns, but Russo and Bobby were faster. Thwip, thwip. 2 of Volkov's men dropped. The 3rd tackled Russo. Vincent and Volkov lunged at each other, a brutal, desperate fight. Volkov was stronger, smashing Vincent's head against a marble desk. Chloe, her arm in a makeshift sling, moved. She couldn't shoot, but she could think. She kicked the legs out from under the man fighting Russo. Russo, free, shot him. Volkov saw it. He kicked Vincent away and drew his own pistol, turning it on Chloe. The bitch from the warehouse, he snarled. I should have killed you myself. He fired. Chloe dove, the pain in her shoulder exploding, but the bullet missed. Vincent, recovering, tackled Volkov. The gun skittered away. The 2 bosses rolled on the floor, snarling, biting, killing. Vincent was losing. Volkov was on top, his thumbs pressing into Vincent's windpipe. Chloe scrambled, grabbing Volkov's discarded pistol. She pressed it to the back of Anton Volkov's head. Get off him, she ordered. Volkov froze. He slowly, carefully got to his feet. Vincent rose, coughing, his face purple. He walked to Volkov. This, Vincent gasped, is for Frank, and for Leo. He took the gun from Chloe's hand and shot Anton Volkov 3 times in the chest. The war was over. They drove back to the compound in silence. The sun was just beginning to stain the sky, a sick grey pink. As they pulled up to the bunker, Dr. Paulson was standing outside. He wasn't in scrubs. He's awake, the doctor said, his voice flat. He woke up an hour ago. He's lucid, and he's asking for her. Chloe's heart hammered against her ribs. This was it. The real reckoning. She walked into the sterile white room. Artie Costello looked small in the bed, pale and hooked up to a dozen machines. But his eyes were the same, sharp, cold, and intelligent. Vincent and Sal stood at the foot of the bed. Chloe! Jensen! Artie rasped. His voice was a paper-thin whisper. Hello, Artie, she said. They told me, he breathed. What you did. Il Pavone. You saved me. Yes. And Volkov. Vincent. He told me. You saved us. All of us. My entire organization. Yes. Why? He whispered. I had a deal with your son, Chloe said, her voice steady. I help him, and when you wake up, you give me the truth. Artie looked at Vincent, who nodded. The truth, Chloe pressed. About my father, Robert Jensen. No business, no messy. The truth. Artie Costello held her gaze. For a full minute, the only sound was the beep of the heart monitor. He was an honest man, Artie finally whispered. That's why he had to die. I offered him everything. Money. Partnership. He said no. He called me a cancer. He said he'd go to the feds, the Times. He was going to burn down 30 years of my life. For principle. So you had him killed, Chloe said. I gave the order, Artie said, his voice finding a sliver of its old strength. Yes, I'd do it again. But the man I sent. He was a brute. He was supposed to make it clean, an accident, but he got angry. He made it an example. I am not sorry for the order, Chloe, but I am sorry for the way it was done, for what it did to you. There it was, the confession she had waited 15 years to hear, the rage she had nurtured for half her life. It didn't vanish. It just felt heavy and old. Who? Chloe asked, her voice shaking. Who was the man? Benny the Hook Gallo, Sal said, his voice quiet. He's been dead 10 years, drank himself into the grave. The final thread. Gone. Chloe stood there, the entire purpose of her life fulfilled and empty, all at once. So what now? She asked, looking at the man in the bed. I'm a loose end. You kill me? Artie Costello looked at his son. He looked at Sal. Then he looked at Chloe, at the new stitches in her shoulder, at the gun on her hip, at the cold, capable strength in her eyes. He gave a small, dry chuckle. Kill you, he rasped. Child, you're the most valuable person in this room. Your family, in a twisted way. You saved my life. You saved my son's life. You saved everything. He took a shaky breath. There's a place for you here, if you want it. Vincent, he's smart, but he's hot. You're cold. You're a strategist. I need you. It was the ultimate, grotesque irony. A job offer. Chloe looked at the man who murdered her father, and she looked at Vincent, a man she respected and hated in equal measure. She was a soldier with no war, a medic with no one to save, an avenger with no one left to punish, or maybe she just had a new, bigger army. Chloe thought of the 15 years she'd spent in the dark. She finally smiled, a real smile. It felt strange. I'll need a new apron, she said, and a much better salary. And so, the waitress, the soldier, and the avenger became something new, a queen. Chloe Jensen's quest for revenge ended not with a bang, but with a bargain. She didn't destroy the Costello family. She inherited it. The line between justice and vengeance, between hero and villain, blurred until it disappeared completely. She came to burn down the castle, but found herself sitting on the throne. What do you think of Chloe's choice? Was it justice or the ultimate corruption? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This was a wild ride, and if you enjoyed this story, please show your support. Hit that like button, share this video with a friend who loves a good twist, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more dark, dramatic stories just like this one. Thanks for listening. Thanks.